which stood for acronym gay related immune deficiency, because this particular group of individuals had been reporting for such kind of immune deficiency. So it was named as gay related immune deficiency. CDC, Center for Disease Control, coined this diseases as the 4H disease, because it seemed that it was restricted to Haitians, homosexuals, hemophilics, and heroin users. So 4H name was given to it. However, in a meeting in July 1982, AIDS name was coined and it was introduced in that particular meeting, and by September 1982, CDC, Center for Disease Control, started using this name as AIDS. So this was how the name AIDS became prevalent, and this particular name was given to a condition where the immune deficiency arose due to the infection of a particular virus. Now that virus is known to be as HIV virus. Now, how this particular virus was discovered, that is the causative agent of the condition AIDS, how was it discovered? Then in 1983, that is immediately after 2 years, when these people were studied in great depth, in detail, the blood sample was analyzed. Then two group of scientists working together or working differently reported the same virus. These groups were led by, or it was headed by, Robert Gallo and Montagnier. These two scientists and their teams worked independently, and they found a particular kind of a novel retrovirus which was responsible for infecting AIDS patients. And in 2008, Montagnier and his colleague Francois Bear-Sinozi from the Institute of Pasteur, they were awarded the Nobel Prize for their work on the discovery of HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. Now let us discuss in brief about the HIV virus. This virus is a icosahedral virus. Icosahedral virus, as you know, it's a particular type of symmetry which is very common among the viruses. It is having 20 sides. It has an envelope, and it belongs to retroviruses. To be more specific, a subfamily known as lentivirus. Retroviruses have a peculiar feature. It is a RNA virus, and the information from RNA is transcribed to DNA by using a reverse transcriptase enzyme. So this is in brief the virus. Apart from that, if we call a genome of this virus, as I have told you, it is a RNA containing virus, but the genome is distributed in two strands. That is, it has got two RNA strands which is found in a nucleocapsid, that is a protein outer coat. This particular protein outer coat is surrounded by a membrane or an envelope which also contains embedded glycoproteins. These are knob-like structures, and they are basically responsible for binding to the target cell, that is to the host membrane. In this particular way, the virus will attach with the host cell membrane and will start the infection. This is a HIV virus. See how beautiful it looks, but it's an extremely dangerous virus. It's a icosahedral pattern having 20 faces. There is an envelope surrounding it, and you can see glycoproteins, knob-like structures, which protrudes out from the membrane of the virus. Now let us come to the modes of HIV or AIDS transmission. How this virus is transmitted from one individual to the other. We call it as a modes of transmission. How this spreads in a community. First, it spreads through the body fluids. These body fluids includes either blood or blood products, semen, and the vaginal fluids. So, three body fluids are of primary concern when we talk about the transmission of the viruses through blood or blood products, semen, and vaginal fluids. Apart from that, it is also transmitted through intravenous drug abuse. That is, when a group of individuals, they share the same needle without sterilization, there is an increased incidence of contracting HIV. Or even by using unsterilized blades, that is, when you share razors or when you use the surgical instruments which have not been properly sterilized. Virus is also transmitted through sex. Basically, we are talking about unprotected intercourse, either oral or anal. So, through unprotected intercourse, that is through sex, this disease is also transmitted. This disease is also transmitted from mother to baby, that is known as vertical transmission. Now, since the mention has been made of vertical transmission, the other transmission where the virus is transmitted from one individual to another, that we will call it as a horizontal transmission. That is either transmission through sex or by sharing the needles or transmission through body fluids. They are all horizontal transmission because it is transmitted from one individual to another individual. But when this is transmitted from a mother to a child, from a mother to a baby, that is considered as a vertical transmission. Now, in vertical transmission, as you can see it in a slide, it is transmitted either before birth, that is, when the fetus is in the womb, the virus can be transmitted directly, that is before birth, or during birth when the child is being delivered, or during the breastfeeding, that is after the birth has taken place, when the baby is being fed. So, before birth or during breastfeeding, the virus can be transmitted from mother to a child, and that is a vertical transmission. This diagram shows, in short, in general, how HIV can be transmitted through sexual contact. First figure is of a sexual context. Second is either pregnancy, childbirth, and breastfeeding. The third one indicates injection or drug users, drug abuse. Then we have an occupational exposure. Occupational exposure in few incidences have been reported to transmit the AIDS, because when a doctor or a sex worker or a social worker, when he is dealing with an infected individual, specifically doctors and surgeons, it is an occupational exposure to them, because when a doctor is performing a surgery on an AIDS patient, then through the blood, if he is not properly worn the gloves or something, then these virus can be transmitted to a doctor if he has got certain open wounds or cuts in his hands. And last, what it shows is transmission of virus, HIV virus, through blood transfusion. Because when the blood is donated by an individual who himself does not know that he is HIV infected, and if the same blood is given to the other one, no doubt the blood is being tested for it, but in few cases, in some rare incidences, such kind of things may happen, that HIV infected blood was transferred to the recipient. Such cases have been reported before few months in one of the cities in Gujarat. And even organ transplant, when the organs have been transferred from a HIV infected individual to a recipient, then recipient might get such kinds of infections. So these were the certain ways by which the transmission of AIDS can take place. Now let us at the same time discuss about the myths about the transmission. As we have discussed how the HIV is transmitted, let me clarify, let me stress how this HIV is not transmitted. Basically, you can eat together, work together, or shake hands together. You can touch the HIV infected person. You can also dry kiss the HIV infected individual. You can embrace the HIV infected individual. You can share utensils with them. You can donate you can donate your blood, and you can also use the same toilet seats. These are the myths which are very prevalent in the society, and therefore they consider HIV infected individuals or people living with HIV as untouchables. These myths are so prevalent that educated persons in a society, they also try to run away and they do not help HIV infected individuals. So I would just again stress that by touching, by dry kissing, by embracing, by sharing utensils, or by donating blood, or by other contacts, the HIV infected is not, HIV virus is not transmitted from one individual to another. Now let us discuss about the natural course of HIV or AIDS. How this disease develops in a host. How the onset of disease starts. Now the stage 1 is a primary stage. Primary stage is showing a symptoms like flu or trickling of nose, some like common cold you can consider, then slight uneasiness, little bit of fever. This occurs within 1 to 6 weeks after infection. Incubation time period is very long, ranging from 1 to 6 weeks. The symptoms are mild, just like a flu-like symptoms, or a person is suffering from a common cold. During this particular stage, the virus is present in the body of an infected individual, and this person can infect another individual by the body fluids. Stage 2 is asymptomatic. After 2 to 6 weeks, when the primary stage is over, we have a stage which is very dangerous one, asymptomatic. Why I call it as a dangerous one? Because during this particular period, the person appears to be normal, and this particular asymptomatic stage period can last for 10 years, as long as 10 years. The person is free from any kind of symptoms. However, there might be swollen glands and pain in certain glands, and even the level of HIV virus in blood drops to a very low, and probably it may escape the detection. However, the HIV antibodies can be detected in blood. Again, we have a third stage, that is symptomatic, whereby after 8 to 10 years the immune system has started deterioration, or it shows deterioration, and the immune infections starts to appear. Cancer and other related disease also may start to appear. And in this transition, now the person acquires a condition which is known as AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. The immune system has weakened so much that CD4 cells decreases in the number. And as the CD4 cells decreases in number, various opportunistic infections are associated with that particular host. When the CD4 count reduces below 500, various bacterial infections, tuberculosis, herpes, vaginal candidiasis, hairy leukoplakia, Kaposi sarcoma, they start appearing. When the count reaches below 200, still other opportunistic infection like pneumocystis carinii, toxoplasmosis, cryptococcidiosis, coccidiomycosis, cryptosporangiosis, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, they may also be observed. And worst is when the CD4 count cells are below 50. Various common diseases, for example, disseminated Mycobacterium avium complex infections, histoplasmosis, cytomegaloRhinitis, central nervous system lymphoma, and progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy and HIV dementia are associated with the AIDS patient. TB and HIV co-infections are very common.